Good Monday morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this marvelous Monday. What a beautiful morning it is with all this heat in the afternoons. It has been nice sitting outside on the porch, so I hope you've had a chance to enjoy God's creation and spend a little time in the Word. We had a great day yesterday. I'm so blessed to be a part of First Baptist Church, Dadeville, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out, being part of our tremendous worship service. But if you missed that, come and join us this coming Sunday. But we're still in First Thessalonians chapter 3, and I want to pick up in verse 9 of chapter 3 and talk about something that's very important because we've talked about how great a church that the Thessalonians had. A young church, a growing church, a ministering church, a loving church, a faith filled church, a serving church, a persevering church. So many different adjectives we could use to describe them, but they were not the perfect church. By the way, there is no such thing as the perfect church. And I want you to understand that. But here's the thing to know: no matter how good your church is, no matter how good your church is, there's still room to grow. Because with all of those things going on in Thessalonica that Paul was dealing with, listen to what he says. For what thanks can we render to God for you, for all the joy with which we rejoice for your sake before our God, night and day, praying exceedingly. Now, I want to stop right there for a second because this is continuing what Paul's been talking about, how he longed to be with them, how much he loved them, how much he wanted to see them, and how much he'd been praying for them. And now he says, praying exceedingly that we may see your face and perfect what is lacking in your faith. Now, think about that for just a minute. Such a great church, and yet Paul says there's something missing. Now, he doesn't go on to tell us what it is, and there's nothing really specific here about this. He just wants to help them to grow and mature in their faith. And as believers, we need to understand that we never arrive until we arrive in heaven. The promise that the Apostle Paul shares with us about we are predestined to be conformed to the image of God's own Son. A tremendous promise, but it's not going to happen until we get to heaven. We're constantly growing to that point. And that's the whole focus on spiritual life and the spiritual journey that we're on. It's a constant climb. Sometimes we slide back and sometimes we move forward. But we need to remember that God has always got a plan for us to help us to grow. And that's why it's so important that we attach ourselves to a church or a group of other believers or even a single mentor who can help us to see our own needs and to show us how we can accomplish more in our spiritual life than what we can do by ourselves. Because as Christians, and I say this all the time, we were not created to be lone rangers in the church. We were not created to do Christian life on our own. We need each other. That's the purpose of the church, not only to reach out into a lost and hurting world and make disciples of all nations, but also so that we can grow ourselves spiritually as iron sharpens iron as we work together. That's why we put so much emphasis on discipleship, on small groups, on Bible studies, because we can never do enough to the point where we have done enough, if you understand what I'm saying. We can never get to that point where we've got enough Bible study and discipleship going on that we don't need any more, because there's always more to be had. And I'm so thankful that we have a church that is so focused and so hungry for the study of God's Word, and so many people who are willing to be a part of small groups and Bible studies. But we all need that because we need to be perfected in our faith, that growing process, that maturation process. That's what the Apostle Paul talks about. That's what he longs for in the church at Thessalonica. And that's what every pastor longs for in his church. So if you're not a part of a small group, if you're not part of a discipleship group, if you're not part of a mentoring, discipling relationship, find somebody. Talk to them. Just tell them, look, I really would like to get together with you and learn more about your faith walk and understand what it means to grow as a Christian and help each other be the Christian that God's called you to be. It's a great idea. Think about it. Pray about it. And I'll talk to you about it again tomorrow. God bless.